in some states, any man who says that he identifies as a woman can go into locker rooms and showers of the opposite sex, and there's nothing women can do about it. What the argument is based on is the idea that there is a trans person, that there is such a thing as a trans student, a trans adult, a trans child. And what we need to recognize is that there really is no such thing as an inherently trans person. What there are people, children, adults who have gender dysphoria. There are people who have transitioned and therefore become transgender. But there's no such thing as an inherently trans person, which is why you can't test for it, which is why anybody can say that they identify as the opposite gender, which is why women and girls feel unsafe when they're biological males in their spaces where they're vulnerable. Not because it's a person who has transitioned, but because there is no litmus test to determine whether or not someone who is transitioned is someone who is doing it because they have gender dysphoria, or if it's someone who's doing it in order to gain access to women and girls in spaces where they're vulnerable and in the state of undress. This is the crux of the problem. That what they're asking us to do is, first of all, to accept any male who says they identify as a female as transgender, as gender dysphoric, as someone who has gender dysphoria and then has to transition in order to alleviate their gender dysphoria. We have to accept that, and we also have to accept that because of this mental health issue and their transitioning, they are the same now as a biological woman. And our feeling of discomfort and our feeling of unsafety is due to our own transphobia rather than to the fact that there's a biological male in our spaces and potentially presents a risk to us. Predators will find any opportunity they can to take advantage of women. If a man comes and looks through my window when I'm undressing, that's illegal. But if a man comes into my locker room when I'm undressing, that's legal. Girls and women who say that they're uncomfortable having biological males sharing spaces with them, such as locker rooms and showers and bathrooms, and even overnight accommodations, we're being called transphobic. This is a way of denying our boundaries. It's a way of suggesting that our boundaries are unreasonable. And if we start telling girls that they're not even able to determine whether or not someone of the opposite sex looks at them while they're naked, while they're showering, sleeps in a room with them when they're on an overnight trip with school, if we start telling girls that they can't even say they're uncomfortable with this, then these girls are going to grow up and not be able to set boundaries. Their consent is going to be meaningless because they've been taught their whole life that they don't even have a right to say whether or not a biological male looks at them when they're naked. I wrote this poem in order to illustrate how it feels to women and girls who are being told that we have no right to establish visual privacy from the other opposite sex in locker rooms and showers. And that if we try to do so, we are transphobic. That our feelings are less important than biological males who say they identify as females. And the reason I wrote this is because I don't think people understand how insidious this message is. He enters the locker room. I run to the front desk for help. They tell me he identifies as she. They tell me I'm transphobic. He's undressing next to me, exposing his naked maleness. I quickly put on my shirt, forgetting about my bra, struggling into my jeans barefoot, and run to the front desk for help. They tell me he identifies as she. They tell me I'm transphobic. I get out of the shower and open my locker. He walks over to me, leering at me with a smile, stroking his hardness. I hold my towel tight around me and I run to the front desk for help. They tell me he identifies as she. They tell me I am transphobic. I am drying off my feet. He pushes his erection against my bare bottom, letting out a quiet moan. I reach for my towel, but he snatches it away. I scream for help. Someone from the front desk comes to see what's wrong. He tells them that I am transphobic. I am in the shower when I feel hands tight around my mouth, my nose. I feel like I am drowning. I try to scream, but it comes out as if I am deep underwater. He rubs himself against me and he whispers, "Wanna suck my girl dick, you transphobic cunt?" They find me huddled on the tile floor sobbing. They tell me I am not allowed in the locker room anymore because I am transphobic. And I know this is a very graphic poem, but I wrote it in order to illustrate a point, that one of the reasons that girls and women do not want biological males in locker rooms with them is because they are vulnerable. At what point do we stop being transphobic? At what point do we have a right to advocate for our own safety and privacy? We are being told that biological males have more of a right than we do, that their feelings are more important than our feelings. There is no way that we can teach girls and women to set boundaries if legislatively our boundaries are overrun. There is no way we can set boundaries if we are told that we are transphobic for doing so. This undermines all the efforts that we have made as a society to teach women and girls that their consent matters. This is telling us that our consent doesn't matter. That no matter how we feel, our feelings are less important than the biological male who identifies as a woman.